and welcome to another episode of FooBar. In today's video, I want to bring you some of the launches related to AppComposer, Application Composer from last re:Invent. Application Composer is a service we announced like a year ago, and during the last year it has been getting better and better. So that's why today I want to talk about some of its announcements. Today we are going to talk about two specifically. The first one is its integrations with Step Functions Workflow Studio, and the second one is the capability of using AppComposer from Visual Studio. So let's get started. So Application Composers helps you to build serverless applications. Basically, you can drag and drop different components into the canvas and connect them together. If you use them from the AWS console, the flow is very simple. You can build the infrastructure template from the console or from Visual Studio Code, as you will see later, and you can edit the diagram and that will sync into the template, and then you can test your application. If you are using the console, you might need to download that template and deploy it maybe with some Accelerate. If you don't know what it's that, I'll leave you a link in the description box. But if you use it from Visual Studio Code, you can do it as you normally do it. I will show you that in a second. So let's go to the console and check these two announcements. So for that, the first thing we're going to go is to Application Composer. So I never show this in this channel. So here it is. You can create a new project. So we are going to see the first launch from here. So let's create a new project. If you never work with this, it's very simple. You drag like this, and then you can basically connect things like this, and this. And then when you double click, you can basically go and configure everything. And then if you click here in template, you can see the SAMP template for this architecture. So this is really cool. So this is Application Composer. You can see that it works with a lot of different components and you can bring any kind of APIs. But the cool thing is its capability of being in Visual Studio Code. So in order for this to work, you need to go to the main page and download the Visual Studio Code extension. Basically, it's the AWS extension. So let's create here a new folder. And in here, we can create a new file. So this is our SAM file and it's empty. So after we have installed the plugin, we can click in here and it will open the Application Composer. So we can do exactly the same. We can bring these things in here. We can connect them together. We can arrange them so they look pretty. And we can make the zoom better. And we can configure things here. We can press here. We can put function FooBar. Save API. We can leave the name. Here we can say item table. We can change the partition key to item. I don't know, you can change whatever you need. And then if we go back to the template YAML, now it's populated with all this information. So we can see here that is our API and it has all the different properties. Then we have the function, and here you can see that the memory and the timeout, everything is configured. The code, we are going to check that in a second. It has an API from the previous definition. It has the environmental variables, so it's already getting the table name and the table ARN, so you can get them from your function code. And here we have the Dynamo table, that it has the item definition, and it has even stream enabled if you need it. So the cool thing here is that it already created our function. So we have a kind of bare bones of a function that we can work with, and we already have the environmental variables that we can take in. So if we want to modify these, we could. So this is really cool. And every time we want to work with this template YAML, we can either change it here. So we can, for example, change it here, FooBar, Marcia, change. So we save, and then if we click either here or right click and it says open with Application Composer, then we will be able to see the changes in the diagram, so you can move back and forth between these two views. And this is really handy to start, not with an empty file. If you want to start a project, you just drag and drop all the different bits and pieces, and then you will basically have the structure, and then you can go into the template YAML and go deep in the parts that you are interested in, or even you can do all your configuration from Application Composer here. So that's the first launch that they added into AppComposer, being able to use it from Visual Studio Code. I love it because I'm all in for using the IDE for everything. Also now, because we are in Visual Studio Code and we have the SAM template there and the functions, we can just use some deploy, some sync, some accelerate, everything from our terminal. So it's way better. But if that was not enough, they also did another amazing launch that is integrating Application Composer with Workflow Studio. And this Workflow Studio is the visual IDE from Step Functions that we already love, where you can drag and drop and build your state machine from Step Functions AWS console. And now you can connect it between Application Composer. From the console, it's nothing special because we already have Workflow Studio and we like it. But from the IDE is something I'm in love, because I've been waiting for having a Workflow Studio in my IDE for so long. So now let's open another project. So let's open a project that has a state machine. So this is the project we build when we talk about the HTTP endpoints in Step Functions. And we can open here the template. And you can see that there is a state machine here. So we can go to details, and you can see here added in Workflow Studio. You can see exactly the same from the AWS console, but it's not that cool because it's in the console. This is in my Visual Studio Code. So here you can see the state machine definition if you want. If we click on this button, edit in Workflow Studio, we click on it. Now Workflow Studio is loading, and we can see and have a similar experience as we do have when we work from the console. So you can see here the state machine. If you want, you can add new things and invoke your Lambda, configure it, and whatever you want to do. You can also see the configuration for this one. So I have this so maximized, it looks weird. So this is calling the HTTP endpoint, the third-party API. And you can see here the parameters and all the configuration that we did last time. The only downside here is that we don't have the test state API. I hope that's something that comes in the future, because it will be so powerful being able to have everything in here. But I think this is awesome. And then whatever you do here, so if I can change name, I save, we can check the state machine definition, and my name has changed here. So this is really cool because it's impacting directly my state machine definition. So I don't need to have two different browsers, one for my IDE, deploy. I can do everything in here. So I can define my state machine as code or as in the Workflow Studio, come to the code, come back, go back. Because here we always have this kind of visualization, but the Workflow Studio is really cool to do a lot of fine-grained configurations that sometimes you don't know how to do it with ASL. So this is something I'm super excited about. So that's it for me today. I wanted to show you these things because I'm all for a good IDE experience, and I think these two launches, AppComposer and Workflow Studio, are awesome to have in your IDE. If you want to see all these ER launches, check this playlist, and I'll leave you here the video about how we build that HTTP calling that third-party endpoint from Step Functions. About that launch, I'll leave you the link here. And with that, I see you in another episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao.